The Poetry Bash is one of my favorite events every year, and judging by the enthusiasm with which it is greeted year after year, I know that it's an audience favorite as well. Please welcome Alison Calder.
Thanks so much, Charlene. It's lovely to be here at the Winnipeg International Writers Festival. Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun being in the audience. I must say it's a little more relaxing being in the audience as well. But I will do my best. So I'm going to just start by reading the opening sequence in the collection in the Tiger Park. The opening sequence is it's called Blind Children at the Natural History Museum, 1913. And one morning on the weekend, I was just sitting around, clicking around on links on Facebook, as is how I spend my time, and ended up on the Flickr site of this really interesting museum in Britain. And what the photographs were a sequence of photographs taken of a particular project in 1913 designed to educate the blind. And the idea was that blind children needed to have some way to learn about the world, to learn how the world was shaped and what the size of the world was. And so there was a project to take them to museums and allow them to touch things. So instead of the usual kind of museum experience where you look at something, here they're very much encouraged to feel things. And of course, they did this, but they were also at the same time being themselves photographed and monitored, and they were very much the subjects of scrutiny. So the photographs are very much about seeing and being seen and power and surveillance and all kinds of other really interesting things. So I'm going to read the sequence. There's 6 short poems. Blind Children at the Natural History Museum, 1913. 1. The blind children dress themselves in their best clothes, wash their hands and faces. Today they will be photographed. Today they will walk to a museum where they may pat monkeys, pigs, cobras, sea urchins. Their fingers, now following familiar paths of buttons and hooks, may stroke a lion. After today, brown will be as plush and quiet as a beaver's pelt, while the word majestic will appear thick as a mane. When they hear about the horse found grazing in the churchyard, they will ask, "Is it bigger than a tiger?" They touch their own faces. After today, what words will their fingers fasten to oatmeal, wool, the soles of their shoes? 2. Crocodile is sharp and spiky, flamingo as curvaceous as its neck. Walrus rhymes with all of us, so big everyone touches him at once. Starfish is a hand in the dark. 3. The blind children learn about airplanes, bridges, ships, and steam engines. They reach into a human skeleton and grab the spine. They stroke feathers, run their fingers over busts of great men, learn the pointed difference between Shakespeare's beard and Dickens's. They feel oysters, otters, elephants, oryxes, warthogs, and moles. Later, they make models of their discoveries. These are displayed to seeing audiences who praise the fidelity of their reproductions. 4. The blind children turn keys, open boxes, troop up and down the stairs. They stand before a relief map and feel the nation's contours. London is an anchor, while home is in midair. In the quiet lecture hall, they put their heads down on desks to rest, dream they have climbed into the encyclopedia and dumped out all its drawers. 5. Someone is watching the blind children. Someone's always watching. Often, the children catch the lilac scent of soap, count the particular pauses between breaths taken in, released. Miss Andrews, Mr. Glendale, the cook or else the teacher. Right now, there's nothing but a room becoming smaller, closer, deafening as a blanket. A shift in temperature, a space soaking up whatever gets too close. A door that's open, closes. The blind children feel the watcher, like wrapping their heads in a towel or going underwater. They might disappear. 6. The blind children are bused to a hayfield, their first time in a coach. They smile into the shutter's blink as speed splashes against their faces. Then, engine roar, the friendly buffets of the wind, the side to side on the corduroy road, and finally the prize, a pasture with a cow. It smells like flower stalls and dung. They stagger in the long grass, fall laughing onto hillocks, the ground uncertain. Green is warm, but damp, with coolness rising. They comb through grass, feel thatch catch their fingers, dust turn to mud on their palms. The teacher tells them how routes go on for miles. Soon, the tethered cow stands unhappily while children grope it. They have to take turns as it stamps and fidgets. A cow is cold and slimy, or else it's hot and rough. Its udder feels like rubber, weirdly heated. That's where the milk comes from. The children squeal and snatch their hands away, dare each other to touch a nose, a tail. They marvel at its size. One child finds the whorl of hair on the cow's bony forehead. Cowlick snaps into place like the piece of a puzzle. Another child burrows into the hay, turns away from the camera. Now, I belong to a little writing group in town. We meet once a month or so and eat a lot of pastries. Thanks. So my writing group has been giving me grief about my obsessions. You know how all writers have these kind of tics, right? These kinds of things we default to all the time. It's like there's a little sort of a switch that's tripped. So whenever I'm thinking of metaphor, I'm going to come up with an elephant. Or an elephant or a moon. These are my two obsessions. So I thought the only way to get through these obsessions is to try to exercise them. So tonight, I'm going to try to read away my obsessions. So I'm going to start off with don't think of an elephant. Drop your finger onto the map and you will not hit an elephant. Yet the first bomb dropped on Berlin in World War II killed the only elephant in the Berlin Zoo. His death's logic no weirder than his transplanted life beside the statues of the Tiergarten's Elephant Gate. By cart, by ship, by train, commercial lines reeled him into paddocks he could never have imagined, penned up in the wrong place, wrong time. At the gate, his doubled likeness, hobbled, carries emperors over cobblestones, escapes the zoo's walls to annex the city. Behold an image trampling on its model, heading straight for the blank space at the center of the flag. Hear the lion, hear the rhino, the animals of empire, charging. Meanwhile, our elephant is only flesh. As his granite twins, bejeweled, command the street, he flaps his ears, eats candy. In the shade, he naps, swats flies, ambles pleasantly along the inside of his fence, takes peanuts. Drinking from his curled trunk, he lifts his head. A thick-skinned beast charges towards him from the sky. I realize that's actually the second elephant I've killed off in my poems. Obviously, my obsession is about killing elephants, in fact, not just, anyway, I don't want to get too much into my whole elephant needs or desires or whatever. So I'm going to read another one of my obsessive poems here, if I could now find it. Oh, very annoying. Well, actually, I'll just read this one because I opened the book to it. It's an elephant poem again, but it also features my other obsession. Listen for it. It's called Saguaro. It's about a cactus. As you probably know, the saguaro cactus is it's the cartoon cactus. It's the one with the arms, looks like it's waving all the time. That's the cactus. 1. The saguaro is the desert's elephant, never forgetting whether it rained. If cut, it bleeds 90% of the desert. It holds a people in the basket of its bones. 2. Wily saguaro orders itself from the Acme Company, turns every landscape into a cartoon. It is the desert's greeter. Hi, hi. Arms raised for a prickly hug. 3. If you put the saguaro to your ear, just kidding, don't do that. 4. In spring, it is wreathed like a bride, smells of melons, cucumbers, everything crunchy, tonic as gin's juniper bite. 5. Saguaro sounds the dull thunk of the desert's pulse. Inside it, birds disappear, reemerge, turn its skeleton to forests, ribs into its sky, round moon its hollow door. Okay, here's my other moon poem. It's called Sad Steps. And strangely, I've only ever read about 4 poems by Philip Larkin in my life, and they're in the anthology that I use for teaching. And yet 3 of the poems in this book are influenced by Philip Larkin. So future biographers, take note. So, Sad Steps. Stumbling back to bed after a pee, I'm startled by the stalker moon, peeping Thomasina through the spare room window. Intruder. Interruptrix. She's looking a bit rough around the edges, her complexion in need of dermabrasion, or at least a gentle scrub. Tonight she shows her age. Well, that makes 2 of us, as I fumble across the landing, hair snarled, breath soured in my faded pajamas. Old moon, you may control the tides, and they have turned. Seductress to slattern is a slippery slope as maiden moves to mess. Harsh lantern, you arrest me in the paparazzi's flash, mirrored, captured in my cratered flesh. So between the moons and the elephants, I've had enough. So here's a poem called Intervention. Fuck off, moon. Get out of my poems. Every time I look up a word, the dictionary says, see moon. A porcupine is a moon. An onion, even a beluga could be one. And take the elephants with you. I'm through with them too, stampeding over my lines, blaring their trumpets, flattening my words with their big feet. It's getting so I can't hit a key without tripping over a moon or an elephant. I need to say goodbye to you, moon, pendant, luminous. Good night, farewell, ciao, hasta la vista, moon, old friend, old elephant. And I'm just going to end with one very quick one about writing. I think all poems are about writing in some way or another, and this one certainly is. It's a Banff poem, and I'm reading it for all you writers. It's called 500 Words Per Day. When I hiked up the mountain, the elk were down in the meadow, and when I walked down to the meadow, the elk were gone. Some days are like that. Might as well nap or tear the blank page into a dozen pieces. Might as well call old boyfriends or pen my obituary. Some days a large animal is off in the distance. I should be happy to see it, even there. Thank you.
Our next guest tonight comes to us from Vancouver. Jordan Abel is a First Nations poet who's doing some very interesting work with text, and I believe he's going to show us a little bit as well as let us hear him. So please welcome Jordan Abel.
How's it going, Winnipeg? It's great to be here. Thanks for coming out. My name is Jordan. I wrote a book called The Place of Scraps that's primarily about an anthropologist by the name of Marius Barbeau. Thanks. So I wrote a book about an anthropologist whose name is Marius Barbeau. He studied many of the First Nations in the Pacific Northwest between 1920 and 1930, and was a really kind of strange, divisive figure. But in a lot of ways, he, ended up preserving a number of artifacts from First Nations while simultaneously dismantling those First Nations internally. So for those of you who have never heard Barbeau perform, or you've never heard his voice, his speaking voice, his singing voice, or if you've never heard him drum, you're about to. So bear with me.
The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia and China. The people went through life. Death came eventually. Death, even now, is a time for the Indians when they cannot resist, singing traditional songs of their own people, songs of the past. Some of them are so ancient that they go back to Siberia.
of self-government to the best elements of our people would in time reflect on the welfare of the state. Except on the frontier, business was booming in the new towns, while a regular revolution had to take place within the past month in land values. True enough, the present boom was not noticeable on the frontier, a brilliant future. Yet emigration to Texas was crowding the ranches to the frontier, many of them unwillingly, and it appealed to me strongly that the time was opportune for securing an ample hold of stock cattle. The frontier was rapidly moving westward. The Indian was no longer a dread, as it was only to imitate their red brethren and accept the role of the superior race. I never had but one suit at a time in my life, and often I had seen my wife dressed in the best the frontier of Texas afforded, which was all that ought to be expected. George Edwards was neat in appearance, were constantly being importuned for incidents of a frontier nature. Nothing was to be feared from the tribes from whom we were leasing, nor the Comanche and his allies in the southwest, though there were renegades in both, but the danger lay in the flotsam of the superior race which infested the frontier on the frontier all of his life, and was used to such calls. Bred on the frontier, this little ranch girl was no weakling, but the sudden overturn of our well-laid plans had chilled my own spirit as well as hers. Fort Worth was a frontier town at the time, bustling and alert. The audience was typical of the Texas frontier at the close of the 70s. White men who were willing to isolate themselves on a frontier ranch were scarce, but the natives, when properly treated, were serviceable, and where, bred to the occupation and inclined to domesticity, made ideal. We were anxious to get home. The blight of Reconstruction seemed to have settled over the people like a pall.
But inquiry
The frontier
was made by
having
settlers
escaped
for
it.
oxen with which to break
I
prairie.
lost no time in seeing the oxen and hunting up their
I remember
custodian, who
effecting a
proved to
sale
be a frontier
Comanche
surveyor and his
at the
ally
country
for
seat.
citizen and soldier alike. The town
Was
took
well
on
known
an air
on the
of
Texas
frontier prosperity and excited little comment. Saloons and gambling. The trip
they
was
rode forward
uneventful.
at a swinging gallop.
The traveling was done principally by
There
night,
was always
and
on
on the arrival
of
of
every
Loving's
frontier
town,
home,
600
no
miles
doubt,
from Fort
as strangers,
Sumner,
they
his
could
remains
secure
were laid to
assistance
rest
in
with
quarters
Masonic
that the
honors.
local cowmen would spurn.
The quartermaster had been connected, and his ally for citizen and soldier alike
from Fort Clark,
was well
Texas,
known
to his present
on the Texas
position,
to be feared
and
from
excited
the
little
Champagne
comment
had
we were
flowed
leasing.
nor the
The trip
Comanche
was
rode uneventful.
at a swinging
The
gallop.
traveling was done principally
Though
by
there
night,
were renegades
and
in
on
both
the
these
arrival
towns,
of Loving's
at
frontier
miles
home,
ahead.
600 miles from
This
Fort
time,
Sumner,
we had reached
his
some
remains were
settlement
laid
on
to
the
rest
Cottonwood.
with Masonic
The
honors
pioneer
and
settlers in
experiences.
Kansas
And the two
arose
of us
in
were
arms,
Manchi,
constantly
and his
being
ally for
importuned
citizen and soldier
incidents
alike
of a latter had
was
handled
well
nearly
known
a
on the
quarter
Texas
million
frontier
alligators
and excited little
but
comment on
Abilene,
the frontier of the
Wichita,
state.
and other
The trip was during the
towns
rebellion
in
had allied themselves with the federal state and harassed the settlements along the border. It required a regiment of mounted men to patrol the frontier from Red River to the coast, as the Comanches claimed the whole western half. And the two of us were constantly being the war to frontier battalions of a frontier was well known. The Comanche did nothing to be a frontier tribe, many of them unwilling, and it appealed to me strongly that the time was opportune for securing though there were renegades and on the arrival. The frontier was rapidly it required a regiment. The Indian was no longer a dread frontier, as it was only a question of time it was a buoyant feeling in the air, constantly during one under asparagus. On emigration to Texas was many of the claim Let me say to you, some of them frontier, air, manufacturing, and wildlife, emigrations and exodus, settler.
Thank you. It's quite the honor to be back in my hometown and to be a part of it again, but it doesn't happen alone. So thank you, Charlene, and Thin Air, everybody here that I've met, and Prairie Fire as well. Can you please give them and my fellow readers another round of applause? Arrival. Horseplay is for horses. This is a safety moment by camp security. Sometimes holding a double major is killer. The logging road is the tongue of a coyote, empress of rushes. On the shoulder, black ants lick deep into her body. Crew lead says, "I was here before all this." And you hit deforestation that isn't blight or bruise, just an apiary after swarm. And you exhale as if the mechanisms or metaphors of your breathing, which continues, matters. A pine marten scattered across the road, yesterday's gibbets. Ravens scoot to the corpse and gobble choice bits before gusting away, allowing your F-150 EcoBoost declination. Even the wildlife understands dispossession. But you grind through the wake because you got four-wheel drive and into the dry gravel lot. Ravens skirt camp trailers as you bear possessions into rooms that aren't yours. Check the box that swears you understand the rules and eat later in a hushed ventriloquency who don't know the rules. By morning, the ravens shit all over the rental truck. It's an hour to dig site, and already, day one, you're stuck in the muskeg with the horseflies horsing about your flesh. But there is nothing horse here, except your engines, your shovels, your boots, breaking into eskers like spines, and the 10,000-year stratigraphy holds not enough datable bone. No transition, no hearths. How you understand dispossession now, breaking in the bush so long that there is no expedition back from perdition except calls home. And in your room the phone is static valediction from that voice cutting in and out of a face pictured in your phone that lays next to you, each empty sleep in the long, bright nights. Distance is a mantra that says, this is not everything. but you are here, and this is not your room. Thank you. Omens, lightning, all the day's heat parched the earth. We drove home through the brown stalks of rushes. My tanning hide stretches beneath the sun. I cannot wring water from my hair, fearing the helix will prove false, or speak of an old people so homozygous we could hate them too. Rain like lithics, chert, quartzite, flint, a scraper, a blade. Bipedality preceded encephalization, and the first copper ingot falls heavy as moose hooves. Bronze and iron, the age after steel now, and my shovel moans, bucked through roots thick as a 6-year-old's thigh, bearing all the earth on its mechanical grace. There is rain tonight. Sometimes I think there is meaning in people. All night, thunder, the clash of two rocks under water. I am often wrong. I guess I'm doing this right then, hey? Peregrinations. We dig and joke, talk about the ball game, about civil war. Sometimes we roughneck through muskeg and traverse floodful creek beds. We talk of significant others. We complain. They tell us, right, always right. Someone on telly said, we need to discuss the use of banned weapons. Speak of responsibility for a country I only know how to find on a globe. We need to dissect conflict, apparently, surgically. Doesn't objectivity heal like sutures? All our mythologies break down together again. A silence comes to the work. Autumn frost slicks the humble frog, moss torn by rutting moose, no tracks in the first snows. I will not write conflict or speak as if I know the internal sunder of persecution. What difference does one make? Tell me about the stelae of ancient powers, who the great statues were when bent at the plow or weaving baskets, and how, maybe, even they failed our constructs and consummations. Glacial, their mythos in the dawn. History is velocity in the breast. There is nothing I may say in consolation. Let us listen now to the dunes that esker these hearts. Do not answer. You always practice to read slowly, efficiently, effectively, and now I feel like I'm reading too fast, but it's great. Thank you. The waters cycle. The rain unends, little bee, and my boat compasses on the water. There's a pike on the line, and I don't know about the hook, but the world is scuttled. Steel never leaves skin unmarked, and the work beveled my joints, but the earth was empty. I think the heart suffers because that's what we earn. The pike rudders against fin-skin waves, but keel, hull, and gunnels are only substructure. Always how we slept. A skeleton grinning into the last skeleton's degenerate skull in the burial pit. And what would you say if that were you, remembering who I was, looking down at me? A flood rises over the infrastructure we've outgrown. I think we carry living too long. And this is the poem in Prairie Fire. It's supposed to be Hunter too, but currently it's just Hunter again. Hunter. Early autumn and winter, already moving in the roost, peruses clutches of ravens on the eaves, trucks, a hare thrown to the shoulder. In 3 degrees above freezing morning, we listen to wolves howl, an accidental kinship to the yowling from machines felling the forest. I imagine your confusion, reaching that wild place to find pale and flannel man instead, the spicy call of sap and muskeg under boots, torn bog ground beneath the treads of backhoes, dozers, feller bunchers. Imagine you, head low and testing, and loping now west and west where elk avoid bare-torn aspen and moose tread unafraid, their philosophical grace too big for anything but the lights of a blind semi. Digging, we stop and think to call back, shout our instincts, say it wasn't us, it never was us, and this soil we've opened we'll cover again for the next glacial age. For 10,000 years, your paws swift in the snow. We hesitate to sound our instincts off the aspen, to shake the boughs, to lower all language into throat tone. This is the last poem, and I think I have time for it. That was quite a worry, actually, beforehand. The Mate's Cycle. There is now only one pair of tracks. This walk echoes your flesh, another sort of dirt, listlessly, as your pulse has been, slagging these gritly dunes and the bare bowls of sunstroke limbs that await rain to balm thinning vessels. An oracle's sophistry, your laggard progress, too far now tracking the low stone wall of some earlier people, half buried and fragile. Some days ago, you ate crowns of lichen off the stone, and you would have shared your pauper's meal across the skewed-mottled rock, which prohibits any gentle offer that may have exceeded the partition and endured, to hold you as you deserve, or condemn as you believe you have earned. All in this diluvial plain is unreadable. Even the quiet word is blind. The close, shared only before morning, blind. And what the tongue speaks, blind. And touch exchanges grace for jurisprudence blindly, and blind what pages your writing mars. Deftly, your muteness trails this desert, cluttered all the way down to the first shore with pilgrims, honest as they could be, important as none else are. And are these other steps and breaths and dogged annulments sightless as you, groping after each passing? Always your crude tongue unable to supplicate on the dark, nourishing literature within the body, an oasis droughted and bittered with salt. The idolatry of the other you will imbibe anyway, the way someone yoked to heat stroke will drink of their self, flaunted before the sun and flensed by it later still, digging beneath skin for parasites, something else that needs killing, but deeper. And keep walking the stones your forerunners built until your body segregates brokenly against it, because beauty is a mouth that has nothing more to say, and what worth does that now bear? This, like the dry, sharp spines of the grass living here, all set down roots having withered before our gritly bodies on the last oblique dune and the next. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Charlene. I'm Andrus Taskins, and with me is our board president, John Bluthner. We will present Owen with the physical portion of his prize. Every year, the Prairie Fire Poetry Writing Contest is sponsored by a combination of McNally Robinson Booksellers and the Banff Center. And the Banff Center doesn't just give us money towards the prize, but also a replica of a ring that was first worn by Canadian poet Bliss Carman 100 years ago. And replicas of this have now been proliferating for several years thanks to the Banff Center. It's silver and turquoise, and it's lovely and really a kind of a one-of-a-kind poetry prize. This is the issue in which Owen's poem appeared, and I'm happy to report that copies of it are available at the McNally Robinson table. If you want to learn more about Bliss Carman, well, there's lots of information on him online, and there's a bit of information about the prize on our Prairie Fire website. But really, that's research. Right now we're here to celebrate this talented young poet. So without further ado, John, please give him that ring.
Please welcome Ken Babstock.
It's fantastic to be here in Winnipeg. It's my first reading, I believe, in Winnipeg. And I love it. I've been here 24 hours? No, not quite 24 hours. And I love it. And thank you all for coming out to listen. I'm going to read from the new book. The new book is 4 long poems, and this is something new for me. I don't normally work in the long form. We discussed form and what Jordan and I have been working on at the book chat today, and I realized I'm not very good at setting up the poems, so if I try to do much of an intro, I'll talk too long. So I'll just read some poems from the first long poem. The first long poem is 39 sonnets, and I'll just read a few of those and then jump to the end of the book and read an excerpt from the 4th long poem. So the first poem is called SIGINT. SIGINT is an acronym from the military, Signals Intelligence. So it's the dudes who spy, the dudes who intercept messages. It's intel. And so the poems are occurring on a mountain in Berlin inside an abandoned NSA surveillance post from the Cold War. Do lightweight people have a head? Put eyes on the neck, and these questions peel along a garden of hair. You, morning, love a stranger. Not everyone can be the same, but you love a stranger and opened your mouth to him under the beech, the elm, under the oak, trading human and arboreal fungi. The excess space junk making prayer beads of morning's screaming party. Cycling bandits fanning the tree line. 9:25 local time, June 18th, 1986, at 3,800 meters, Rostov-on-Don. All good possibles come from above. It was lying there, different again from the wallpaper, again from what the one in Vienna will be. It wasn't dead. I am still fresh. All good possibles come from above. Moreover, the elms and beech scream into their own crowns, tiara of young bangers, blank, half-frozen air crystallizing in the strata. Some good possibles heat up with the tinned beans over a twig fire. God eats as calms come in. 9:05, missed Strezovoy. When a stranger comes along, ill, with a dirty foot, perhaps running the card back again will get you more water, a lump of sugar. I can only read out what we get back. I want to travel home already. The darker band between stars, the chewed console, the boar's shadow spanning the fence gap. Does the bandit still watch you every day in the controlled city? When I smell that mind, I want home. West of Syktyvkar, June 26, 1986, light aircraft. A middle-sized giant came along who wanted to thump me. The birds ranted a lot. The boys invited morning to be a fixed ladder, not the big one. I must climb over it, sadly. But I do want to have you, for he seems to conceive the slightest contact as license to think down in. I hit it with a maul. Or I slept under a desk, dreaming the forest's elbows were salmon and the ice thawed. Because you involved me. June 30th, 1988, 8:40, after taking off from Samara, multiple incidents. And it is evening already, so swollen. Suppose one rips up the blue, one takes away the quiet, the pealing in the ears, and is ashamed of something. No, but there, I have just thrown the feeling into your mouth. Now you tell it. Perhaps you truly don't own it, but it's in your mouth now, so take it for a walk, past radomes, Damask, reel to reel, the analysts of Virginia under whatever vector this year's probe is re-entering on. May 3rd, 1989, at 8:20, not far from Tumen, altitude unknown at time of incident. People. That means the humans. Humans cannot take away the red sky once it is cooked. If you take away the calling in his room, the angels of swollen evening, the swollen evening, you cannot then say, I milked her there. Perhaps shame at the summit is fitting. Perhaps thinking is a moon's moon. Perhaps the frozen coward's bucket will react at the molecular mammalian ultra, MDM alien light source, indigo bunting, ticker tape, kill sites, and bunting. May 10, 1989, 7:15, Tarnowski Gorodok, damage to windscreen. My mouth keeps on springing open, forced to wait for its flesh. What the big people are taking from the baked moon and the forest disturbed my sleep quite a bit. Quite a bit. No? I can buy you, you ape. Tremors from Germania in the mountain's root, the aerial quivers. Correspondent, dressmaker to the Orange Lord, I remember you from the party. You spat in a plastic cup. You were a plastic cup and waxed string. May 13, 1989, 600, while holding at 4,000 meters over Ulyanorsk. And then I'll read a short excerpt from a poem called 5 Eyes. And 5 Eyes is what we now call echelon. And prior to echelon, we called it Auskanzukus. And prior to Auskanzukus, its name was unknown. I copy absences and do my shifts at the scope. I give incitatory words to my masters who require them under law. Why cite this job as labor bound to the act of killing? Uncertain testimony, meditation upon fact, such as history needed her drawn shift and first blood. I imagined a fact to defend. I forbear bitterness to hunt with dogs. I copy the dog's absence and hunt with a scope. Jailer, self-concern, you may dispense with the greater instruments. Measures, changes, harm, the law, actions. I learned to impute to the body a despair, a kind well of exceptions that preserved the tempted body in a cast, safely above sound, the error preserved in written miracles. Avoid the diseases of Section 7. Purpose steps toward the self-authorizing death. Skin for condemned skin. Make use of the weak answer, description, and argument's gradations are no better when the body is taken. Images remain of the dead in diverse places. Miraculous dead in miraculous places, arguing in a common room. Answer to others, the soil is intolerable. Answer to others, I recanted. A weak body in a weak room is a description of miraculous images. Thank you all very much for listening.
Please welcome C.R. Avery.
How you doing? I am okay. Everybody, this is Mr. Scott Nolan on guitar. Memo. It's time to write again. Holidays are postcards to your Don Giovanni, your new knuckle-down testament of residence. Party's over. You've gotten fat and lazy. Wash your hands under the faucet's hot water like Glenn Gould and get at it. It's never work when you're working, just when you're feeling ugly and old and thinking too much. There's an opera of erotic joy sleeping like a manual labor dragon with a large vocabulary in your belly's deep turnstile unvacuumed cave, with its walls of bright-colored paint faded and chipped like the cafe bars of old Havana. Awaken the savage legend from its slumber. You gotta be the fucker of a fire screen. Come on, complacent peasant. Be dangerous with your talent. Make government officials squirm. Make kings and queens kneel. Make them beg for the secrets to lightning striking twice. Make blue-collar robots lean out of their new Chevy's window to smell what's cooking. Damn you. In many ways, Mozart would not have penned his masterpiece without the memory of his demented father cracking the whip. Snap. It's like my buddy Chuck says, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us, we show up and get to work. It's called Gordon Lightfoot's Hometown. The cushions from the couch are scattered in front of the giant mirror, which is also the closet sliding door. Beside it is an antique wooden dresser, which is also a mirror. but it casts an image of you that seems more like your reflection in a clear, shallow pond. A cockroach runs by as I type, and Cassandra sleeps on the box spring bed. The couch looks like it's under construction, with its deep hole fenced off to the general public. A dime, 2 nickels, and 6 pennies exposed, where its cushions once sat at attention like Catholic boarding school boys at their tiny desks in hard-pressed luck uniforms. I turn on the radio. My civil tongue feels the plaque on the teeth of a friendly hooligan. I'm putting off plowing the orchard, putting off the work, the art, the forgiveness, the lashing of intruders, the bank heist plans, telling the rich niece's daughter's story that will breathe the future into the breath of this recluse troubadour. Keith dents the hood of the family car with his electric guitar. Well, the black moan of wind has enough moxie to samba on the Zambam beach beside a Jersey Devil turned Ashbury Angel. Tapping her foot to the Brazilian waves, hitting the usually silent and timid staircase of the dirty Atlantic City Casino's beachfront arcade. And so, 1:47 a.m. will turn into tomorrow. I want the books on this rented room shelf to take off all their clothes. My cigarettes to sing harmony like a Salvation Army choir. And for me to feel free, like once when I slept in Chicago. I walk back to the mirror where sex sucked the kiss from hard drugs' pierced lip earlier that evening. Her sweaty back got wetter, perspiration from my forehead dripped and gripped her good-sized hips, her arms poised, looking at a reflection with claps hands down on the dresser. Confessor of commands and me standing behind like a one-armed Greek statue with a receding hairline that was either chiseled in by a cruel Italian sculptor as a small prank, smiling smugly with his curled mustache as he hammered in with his carving tool into the commissioned piece's forehead, or else from 1,000 years of world war and rain, where the unstoppable tip-tock of steam clock time don't lie. Rubbing the outside of her fresh orange faded underwear fabric, with her thick as thieves skirt pulled up to her mosquito-bitten thighs and pulling down her scissor-cut self-altered blouse to thumb, twirl, and bite her sensitive singer-songwriter nipples while cupping her Hollywood-burned breasts as she drove us down Highway 11 northbound to this fully equipped cabin on Lake Cowichan. That was all foreplay to our mirrored reflection. Naked and turned on, 2 strangers begging lust's governor to reduce their sentence on their carpet-burned, cell-blocked knees to turn casual, aggressive sex into hair-pulling beauty. Cassandra snores softly in the other room. I sit on a cushion like an old Japanese soldier, my bare feet on the kitchen rug. My eyes have not shone this bright for weeks. She stirs and makes half-asleep noises from the bed, with its duvet cover and homemade country quilt pulled right up to her chin. I'm sure the sounds from the late 80s double cassette player with up-top AM or FM possibilities, mind of its own antenna and sketchy volume knob is too loud. So I turn down whatever is playing on the CBC station, almost off. Return to the cabin's porch, under the bed and breakfast suite's veranda awning, its tin roof shadowboxing the wee small hours' heavyweight rain, sheltering the sturdy wooden table chairs and glass ashtray on the table. The la 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 and lyric that boasted from the dusty black radio speakers sucked ass anyway. So could most of this. But I'll be the sole judge and jury of its verdict in witchcraft. Just another aspiring sword swallower with a sleeping beauty anchored to the bedpost wisdom, passing through Gordon Lightfoot's hometown. All right. You guys all right? Holy shit, I'm getting bored of my own voice. So just to give you a break from that, there's three short poems in the book, and so I'm just going to sing them now. And then you want my voice again. In the book, the first line is not repeated twice, but that is the form of the blues. Well, her body is brown and hot, just like desert sand. I said her body is brown and hot, just like desert sand. She's got Brooklyn sass lips and Tanzanian eyes, as confident as a Roman hand. Check this. If porn was like the night sky, just not a coked out debate over width and length. If porn was like the night sky, just not a coked out debate over width and length, then feeling horny could rejoice that its moment of weakness is now its greatest strength. She left with Matt Damon's brother. I rallied the troops and made music to 3 a.m. She left with Matt Damon's brother. I rallied the troops, made music to 3 a.m. But any woman that gives this fool a goodnight kiss is all right with me. Amen. Everyone, one more round of applause for Mr. Scott Nolan, please. I'm going to read this last short poem. I would just like to say I have a couple records that I found in my suitcase. I have 6 of them, and I'm going to leave them here, and they're free. If you want to throw a donation down, that is fine, but I want to leave them in Winnipeg because there was kind of an accident that they're here. This is called A Crowd Favorite from Under the Big Top Takes on the Literary World. The Lion Tamer has just finished his third book. He had to take several nights off from the Big Top gig and leave Martha, his ferocious jungle cat, with his half-brother in Saskatoon to go and attend these somewhat low-paying literary festivals. The money was in successfully pushing the product. Caress the balls and suck. 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 Dean Martin never did that. But still, it's hard to believe they flew him out to the respected cities. Driver waiting at the arrival gate to take him to a fancy downtown hotel, then the Swank Theater. Here he would recite from his tampon bloody published poems of vulgar mischief, pitch-perfect paragraphs about his beautiful mid-20s spent in poverty, mastering the trade of not getting killed. Overflowing with cunt-licking adventures and other awesome, honest-to-God outbursts of profanity, when done with a poke at a problem purpose, in an aviator in a storm skill, and talked openly of the problems with the L'Oreal swagger and humane sense of humor, will always be freedom ringing its cracked bell. So not bad for a man with about a grade 6 level grasp of spelling and grammar, who had the life expectancy of not even making it out of the lion's mouth on his first attempt to tame the holy beast. Here he writes on a picnic table by flashlight, near the horse stables, neath the Milky Way, while the crew is tearing down the circus tents and getting the animals ready for the long journey to the next town.